We have one more series left before we wrap up tonight's Quake entertainment. And I would like to welcome everyone back, as my name is Catch Up and I'm joined by the always talented DJ Wheat and Flea. Our final featured match of the day, Cooler and Bass head-to-head. Starting with you, Wheat, what do we think about this one?
I would say it's been a very interesting time watching Cooler the last 4 weeks, right? That first week we saw him, it wasn't like the Cooler that we normally see, and then we saw like, oh, there he is in a couple maps, and then we really saw Cooler come out and show, right, the Cooler that we all know. Based on the other hand, like what he has shown is he's taking a lot of the traditional styles from his region and he is playing some of those games and some of those styles perfectly. And kind of what I feel like is interesting about this matchup is that Cooler was, one of the people who helped innovate these styles when it came to, Quake. And, so I expect this to be a great one. Bass, it's really funny because there's some people that say, man, I just don't necessarily like the methodology that Bass uses when he plays, because I don't think games are that exciting. I think it's amazing because it's forcing a lot of players to play Bass's game, and I like to see how they, adjust and compensate accordingly.
And this definitely is always a good series when these two go head to head. Last time they played each other was in the Stage 4 finals, the Quake World Championships, and it was then Bass who came out on top in a 2-1 victory. Another really close game, a nail-biter. Cooler pushed to the limit, and so was Bass. And as you mentioned, clearly exemplifying those styles that you're very familiar with in the EU and CIS region. So this is definitely an interesting matchup.
Right, for the last time today, we're going to see the picks and bans, the vetoes, what we're going to be doing, what the journey of this final series will be. And again, Deep Embrace and Tower of Koth for the last time today, not going to be played. And Awoken, Blood Covenant, and Molten Fools, a very traditional layout and very traditional champions, to be honest. We have the Galena and the Ranger, we have the Nyx and the Strog, and then finally Sorlag and the Ice. And, nothing today has really been super out of the ordinary, and especially with these two players, they're going to go with what's meta and what works for them.
Yeah, pretty standard picks. Looking at Awoken, Galena versus Ranger, Blood Covenant, we get to see the Nyx versus the Strog, and then finally Molten Falls, Galena, Sorlag versus Ison. Not immediately going to favor either player here. Definitely Bass starting off with the defensive playstyle that we know him for, going for the Galena, the totems, rather than that mobility that Ranger has.
So,
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. No, continue,
I was just going to say,
we got some time.
I would say, I agree. Nothing here is like super out of the ordinary or like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Obviously a little sad that we only saw one new map this week, but I'm gonna come on, players. I know you're practicing those maps. Like we're gonna see them, but I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about overall predictions for this matchup.
Yes, I was going to ask, honestly, the exact same question, because it's always hard to call with these two. Like, again, I think the likelihood of a 2-1 is very high with these two, because they are of such an insanely high caliber. But who I think has the edge, I mean, it's kind of mad. I genuinely am not sure, but because I am a large Cooler fan, and I would like to be able to interview him later today, I'm going to think Cooler 2-1.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say Bass 2-1, just based on how they've been playing in the last few weeks. Cooler hasn't won a matchup in Season 2 of the Quake Pro League. He lost to CNZ 3-0. Didn't get a single map win against CNZ the last time he played. Meanwhile, Bass just took down Cypher, who we all know absolutely packs a punch, as he demonstrated against Toxic earlier today. So based on how they've been playing in the past few weeks, Wheat said it himself, Cooler, he's got some flashes of brilliance in him, but overall is pretty inconsistent. Whereas Bass, the man just embodies consistency, and I do think that might give him an edge this time. So I'm going to say Bass.
All right. You know what? I was going to say Bass, but because you said that Cooler hasn't won a match yet in Season 2, that's the reason why he's got to turn it up this, right? And I imagine he is thinking that as well. So given the fact that there's some fire underneath his butt a little bit, I'll go 2-1 Cooler with Ketchup.
Well, on that note, I do believe we'll be loading into the first map very, very soon. So it's time for me to leave you lovely people in the capable hands of Flea and Wheat, and I'll jump into chat with the rest of you. Take it away.
All right, we will see you soon.
Absolutely. Final game of the day, Wheat. Time has flown by so quickly. Such great games.
It does seem like today went a little fast, but yeah, I mean, it hasn't been much different week to week. Saw some amazing games. I mean, I was out of my seat watching you guys cast the Wenger game. It was just out of this world. Some of the things that he was doing and how great he was playing. I know that I've sat in this seat and talked about how impressed I am with him as sort of an up and coming player, but he's shedding that real fast. He's not really an up and cut. I mean, he is, but he's establishing himself as someone who looks like they have been a veteran, a seasoned veteran playing this game for 10 plus years. So really, really awesome to see. This matchup though, you know, I mean, going back to your point, I think, you know, where does that look Cooler in season 2 if he goes down and goes a 4th week without winning a matchup? You know, it just doesn't seem like Cooler we'd expect. But again, I think it goes to show Flea just how incredible and how close the talent actually is here in QPL season 2.
Absolutely, and that is just a result of these weekly matchups, right? Even players that would have stood no chance against some of the top pros a year ago, just by playing so often and constantly practicing, have really improved tremendously. Now we're starting things off on the perspective of Cooler, who immediately takes a bad rocket to the face base. Nice little prediction right there. Gonna hold back a bit. Cooler is lacking a rocket, so he doesn't want to put himself in a position where base could just rush him down and get close.
Yeah, he's playing this one slow and steady for the start until he has what he needs. And, you know, yeah, it's not much right there. Harry's going to sneak in and grab it, but at the cost of a lot of life in that LG, he is able to Dire Orb out of there, which was a great, great little move that he's also going to get the Mega Health. So while that looked real bad for Cooler, he played that one exactly how he should have on Doom. He misses that rail, and we're about even once again. So unfortunately missing that was well. I don't know if anyone's going to be on the way that Kilson was today. His rail was just out of control, but equalized here in the first minute.
I mean, Kilson has earned himself the nickname Railson for a reason. Close quarters in exchange right there. Base definitely coming out on top. Cooler, after securing both of the major items last time around, now is to be careful. Loving the horizontal rocket jump, of course. Playing Ranger, you take less self-damage from your own rockets, so you can move around the map that way a little easier. Second time around that Cooler misses a relatively straightforward rail on base, just standing still, not even looking at him. Those things he has to shake himself rid of, because that can cost him in the end.
Yeah, and you can really kind of start to see like what, you know, where does the game go if he hits those rails, and those can become increasingly frustrating if you're hitting them, because right, those are your opportunities. Like base hits that one right there, jumping across just that pixel perfect rail. He knows now Cooler's in a compromised position. He's got 45 points of health. He's not really in a position where almost gets caught out there. Now he grabs a light and we'll pick up the 225s in the back. But again, great rail to answer back. What is going to happen now? LG versus Rockets. Cooler unfortunately missing all those. He goes in for the orb after hitting a rail, and his base who comes out on top, giving him the first frag, and he gets himself the Mega Health.
This is not looking good for Cooler at all. Not even just talking about the frags and the damage dealt, but the fact that base is restricting his movement so much that he's had 2 of those totems up for a while now. So base has got that overstack, that extra heal that he can get out of his third and final totem. That's basically a mega that you've got on you at any point, Wheat. So if he plays his card smartly and keeps Cooler from destroying those totems, base is really set to run away with this one.
Yeah, and you know, obviously the other bonus of that is kind of like getting some map awareness from the totems. Drops down for a rocket, immediately throwing that totem down, getting the heal off it. Cooler going to come out of there, gets hit with a bit of LG as he fires a rocket himself. We'll go back in for the heavy, and you know, base knows exactly where he is at right now, and base grabs it, and Tribolt coming out, rockets exchanged, and you know, Cooler just not hitting the shots that I feel like he would normally hit. So definitely feels like he's playing a bit from behind here. Oh, coming out of that teleporter, almost had him. Up map, the orb comes out. Base running away very low, but both players not in a great spot.
Yeah, COOLLERZ just barely saving his own skin right there, having to orb back into the map after Base knocked him out. Still managing to stay in bounds. And COOLLERZ still not able to destroy any of those tokens. That was a tremendous amount of tribal damage. Base now has the stack advantage. COOLLERZ, no armor to his name whatsoever. This is a good opportunity for Base to strike, but COOLLERZ, as we know, the man can be as slippery as a snake, playing his own game, very cautiously, carefully waiting. He knows that he's only one frag behind and there's more than half of the map left still. So he doesn't have to do anything drastic, doesn't have to force any situations.
Oh, Rocket jumps up, gets hit with a rocket, perfectly telegraphed there by Base, and a rail, knowing that COOLLERZ has come through the middle area. And we've got Base now healing up, and yeah, I mean, low game, but Base is almost exclusively in control. And you said, you know, you're talking about COOLLERZ armor, and you know, COOLLERZ actually picked up 11 lights and 2 heavies, but it just goes to show how much damage Base is doing. You know, we saw those tri-bolts hit, he's been hitting those rails, and completely just negating all the armor that have been picked up by COOLLERZ.
I mean, Base right now is sitting at 1,500 points of damage dealt, COOLLERZ at around 800, so Base is almost doing twice as much damage as his opponent is, and that is indeed what is allowing him to be so dominant, and COOLLERZ has to just keep picking up those small armors, whereas it's really Base that's running away with most of the major items, especially the heavy. Now COOLLERZ finally cleaning out those totems. They have been up for such a long time. This is a good way of starting a comeback. Take out that support system that Base has. Secure yourself the Mega. Oh, bad rail to take though. Base reads COOLLERZ perfectly, realizes that he's gonna go for that small armor and cuts him off. Clever plays.
Very, very clever, and I think you're right. You noticed how there was almost an immediately change in COOLLERZ play after taking out all those totems. You know, he then hit the tri-bolt shots. He's got a little bit better stacked his opponent. LG coming up, he will get his first frag 1-to-1. So you called it there, Flea, perfectly. He was having trouble, you know, with the totems, with the map position that gave to Base. But the moment he did have an open door of opportunity, he knew what he needed to do to take it, and he got it done. So less than 4 minutes left to go, 1-1 game, and you know, this is kind of a game that I expected to see in Base versus COOLLERZ. I think the big thing is going to be, oh, and I don't know if that was a missed orb there, but he orbs into the wall. The thing that I think that it could come back, I think we got to be careful to watch for, is just aggression from COOLLERZ. And a beautiful just triple bounce rocket from Base to grab a second frag, 2-1. Let's see what COOLLERZ does next.
Yeah, COOLLERZ fumbled the orb a bit right there. Pulled it a moment too soon, didn't quite make it up. Ended up taking a fair bit of damage. Base is now in trouble though,
Nice.
Pushes in. And COOLLERZ stands his ground, landing 2 beautiful rails, but he's weak, 10 points of health. Can he stay alive, Wheat?
It's tough. He's gonna grab an armor. That's good. He's got to definitely play this one carefully. And it looks like he will be able to get back up. So,
Yep.
you know, back to even. We're tied 2-2. Makes for an exciting matchup. And just the bounce RNG on COOLLERZ is not happy with it, as Base just hits a perfect one. It almost just completely immobilizes COOLLERZ, giving Base the opportunity to follow up with a couple of nice rockets, pinning him up against the wall. Now 3-2. Still plenty of time though. What's scary is the totems, and then the stack, and of course another frag coming out from Base.
Yeah, Base playing that passive, reactive game that he's so well known for, forcing COOLLERZ to go on the offense instead once he gets the lead and we enter the final few minutes of the map. And that, of course, puts him in a really strong position. I don't think COOLLERZ should have gone for that push, though. Base was pretty stacked, had all the weapons he needed. Orbing into a situation like that, close quarters when your opponent's waiting with rockets, that can go bad very quickly. And now Base putting himself more towards the center area of the map. I love the positioning. He knows exactly where Cooler is, realizes that there's no way that Cooler could have escaped. Here's the bounce pad, and now he's going to position himself a bit farther out towards the middle of the map, but still not pushing him, just keeping Cooler at bay and running the items.
And
he's a little
frankly,
early though.
I think, yeah, he did. Orb did come out. Base is in the, he was in the danger zone there. Gets hit right onto the Mega, back up to 100. Cooler knows that he's hurting, and he wants to go after this frag. He needs to go after him with just a minute left on the clock. There is a rail. Is Cooler just going to go in for it? It's dangerous because the rockets are right there, geared up. Oh, Cooler's so close. So close and not even realize that Totem comes down, and that's going to allow Base to at least put himself into a safe spot here as the final minute ticks away. It's unfortunate, you know. The game of footsie, Base was totally fine with because he was able to escape if need be, and this is not looking super great for Cooler right now. He has got to get a frag and follow it up, and there's number one.
20 seconds to tie another one, string them together, but Base, look at that, he's got all of his totems, spawns himself a mega health out of absolutely nowhere. Now he's just gonna hold his ground. He's got a pretty good idea for COOLLERZ at, sees him at the teleport and he's just gonna make a run for it, knowing that if Cooler jumps down, he can just LG him right back. That will be Base running down the clock to secure himself the map win.
Yeah, 4-3. Great win by Base. Both players, I think, played the game they wanted to play. You know, Cooler kind of tempering his aggression a little bit, which I think he needed to, the way that Base was playing and against that champion. And you know, the end there, that's where it does get a little rough. I mentioned, you know, this game of footsies. It's like Base put himself. You talked about the position that he was in, and it gave him a lot of you know, angles to attack, angles to pre-fire at, and angles to escape. And ultimately, when you're in that position, you're up by 2 frags. You've got, you know, 90 seconds to a minute left. Playing the game of footsies, a lot of players, they're going to be okay with, right? Unless they go ultra aggressive, they can hold that off. So I think Base played that one very Base-like. He had some great, we just saw that triple rocket bounce. That was a phenomenal frag coming out there from Base. But, you know, I wouldn't say that Cooler played poorly. I just feel like Base played, you know, his game, and Cooler was just able to adapt, but not ultimately get the victory through that adoption.
I also feel like in that one situation, did Base fakey a rocket jump and did Cooler fall for it? Because I do think that's how he survived, sitting in that corner with 10 points of health. He shot down in front of him, and I think Cooler just came around the corner and peeked, didn't catch the side of Base, and was like, he just rocket jumped back out of here. He went up towards Railgun and escaped. I think that's what Base was going for, because there was no way that Cooler could get there that quickly. So that wasn't a defensive rocket. I do think that was just an attempt at baiting Cooler out and trying to juke him into thinking, I've rocket jumped out of here while he's just sitting there comfy. Can't believe that worked out, but brilliant.
Yeah, I bet you're right on that, Flea. That actually makes a lot of sense, because yeah, it was easy from our position. It's like, Cooler, just go in there and fire the rocket. You're gonna get, but it's not always that way, right? We always have the third eye when we are commentating, when you're watching at home, and of course that makes it more exciting. But it is those little intricacies, those little, you know, tricks, those little mind games that come into play that players utilize in order to try to get an upper hand. And I think you've identified one of them quite nicely there.
Absolutely. And then, on that note, we'll be moving into the second map. So Base taking down the first one with a 1 frag lead, just the way he likes it. But Blood Covenant might be a different beast altogether. Cooler will be running the Strog, so he'll have more of that horizontal mobility, the crouch sliding, the instant acceleration and speed boost. The Base, of course, has got the Ghost Walk to work with, as well as that wall jump, so the verticality favors Base. There's a lot of nice jumps that he can do that Cooler can't really accomplish with the same level of ease, so it's going to be a battle of mobility this time around.
I completely agree. The other thing that I would urge folks to look out for is an early lead from Base, because he's got the Ghost Walk. There's right, like, this is the type of map where if he can get the lead, he can play a defensive game with Nick. So, right, like if I was Cooler, that would be the thing that I would want to avoid in this matchup.
Absolutely. Cooler, he cannot afford to fall behind because we know just how sneaky and defensively base can play. And if you add on to that the Ghost Walk, it just completely exemplifies that playstyle, and it exacerbates just how quickly and easily base can disappear and run laps around you. So Cooler probably going to play this a bit more defensively, doesn't want to give up anything towards the start. Base is going to hear him, good rockets. That's a quick 130 damage onto Cooler. Can't push through anymore.
Yeah, kind of stopped him perfectly in his tracks there, and it's going to miss that rail, which Cooler's very thankful of. Gets a little bit of LG damage up there, misses that rail as well, but not that third rail. And Mega is up, grabbed by Cooler. He knows exactly where his opponent is. Another rail coming out. We're going to have Peeker getting a little bit of damage going in there. Won't be able to go for a direct hit now. And Cooler actually had base kind of stuck back in that hallway, but unfortunately not much of a stack, right? And you've got to be thinking about, okay, well, should I go get health armor? Should I take a better position? Should I get a weapon? Which is, I think, exactly what Cooler did. Not always great just sitting there, because again, I think like that could play into base's favor depending on how this, you know, how this map plays out.
Absolutely. Base making his way down towards the banana. Yeah, a little bit of a tribal damage coming out right there. Both of the items pretty much in sync. No real advantage for either one of these players to set up a rotation. Cooler, though, very aggressive. Did he even know that base was there? It seemed like he just went up, not expecting him to be there. Still does a good amount of rocket damage. Loving the peeker play right there. Just dropping down, whipping out a little robot. That's a bad shot to miss, though. This is risky, but the LG pulls through. That could have gone really wrong for Cooler.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on on both sides there, but you're right. I mean, going up that jump pad a second time was his opponent had rail. Like, thankfully for Cooler, base missed that rail, but base is going to be coming back and tying this game back up, and you know, kind of to be expected. Neither of those players left with a great stack, a great armor health pool at all. So base is able to capitalize on that a little bit. Now heavy's up. It's going to be the next point of contention. First rail hit by base. Cooler's going to answer with one of his own, and he picks up that heavy. So base is actually hurting really bad. Cooler doesn't see him out of the corner of his eye back there, and we'll come back through. There he sees him through the teleporter. They'll play the teleporter dance, and oh my gosh, Cooler got zapped down 2 bases level on that one.
That absolutely seemed like would have been Cooler's win, but he should probably know he can't even get it. Base landing a beautiful rocket right there. How did that go wrong? Base had 20 points of health. Cooler tremendously stacked, chasing him down with the super shotgun, and then somehow Base, as you mentioned, playing the teleporter game, goes in, right back out, landing a big blast of his own, and somehow actually transforming it into a frag. Now Cooler, this is the situation that you warned us about, Wheat. Already a frag behind, out comes the Ghost Walk. But Cooler is still up there, waiting, watching.
And you know, I know that I've seen people say in chat and what, you know, like, oh, I don't necessarily like this, you know, a super defensive style of play. But really, there's so much to be learned and so much that you can see and so many like tiny little tricks that base might do to you know, to try to misdirect Cooler or to try to stay in one area a little bit longer, like shave a few minutes off. It is obviously it's great to see rockets and LGs and rails flying all over the place, but I have to say, like, this is still a very interesting style to kind of watch unfold. And 2-1, you can already see how base is trying to change this up. Now Cooler's ready for it. Oh my gosh, he
just in
pops,
time.
Yeah, pops a Ghost Walk, almost got hit with a rocket right there, and finally will go down. On the flip side, Flea, right, like, maybe, and sometimes it can be too early to be playing defensive, and that's also where a game style like that can go awry.
Oh, absolutely. Playing too defensively too early, we've seen it happen quite a few times over the course of the Quake Pro League. So what happens, of course, is that if you completely disappear off the map and run away from your opponent, they are going to get every single resource on the map. They are going to get every heavy, every mega. And then if you show your face even once and take some damage, there's very little you can do to stack back up. And you've got this colossal stack trying to chase you down. So disappearing off the map, being too passive too early, can really backfire, especially if your opponent is unable to snowball it into a few frags and build momentum.
There's the Ghost Walk again. Cooler, though, he's on the trails. The LG is coming out. And right back and forth there. The Heavy's picked up, down. Oh, my gosh, saved by that 25. Cooler's still going to chase, though. And he takes the lead 3-2. So Base now going to have to adjust things up. We've got 5 minutes left to go. There's still a lot of time left here in this matchup. You know, the one thing I wanted to say, based off what you said, please, that, you know, back in the day, and I don't even remember which Quake player it was, and maybe it was CZM. It was an American Quake player who said, you know what, you can't run forever. And I think that's the point of, you know, like, you can't just like take a lead in the first minute and expect to run for 9 minutes. There is a point where your opponent's going to catch up to you. You might make a mistake. They might hit that perfect rail. It's nearly impossible to do. So just to that point, it's you know, something you got to be careful of. But Cooler with a great rail coming out of there. He's on the chase again. Base pops the Ghost Walk. And, well, he actually goes down to the middle section. Cooler sees exactly where he is. He's going to go down for the heavy. It's there in perfect timing. And now he is in a great spot. Going to head on over to the Mega Health. He's got an idea that possibly Base is around there. Goes to the teleporter, fires a rail. And Cooler, though, like, we're seeing the aggressive Cooler, and I like this. I think this is exactly what he should do. He pops that Ghost Walk, and then he, you know, keeps on the chase. But he's denying his opponent armor, weapons, and, you know, major items, and this is exactly what I think he needs to be doing in the lead.
One of the things that does stand out to me, though, is that Cooler really hasn't been using the Peeker in the last few minutes after that one time got him killed while he popped the ability. And in doing so, he's leaving up so many hourglasses that allows Base to have that Ghost Walk so often. Still, though, Cooler, hitting hard, constantly trailing behind Base. And now it's going to be very, very difficult for the B100 player to mount a comeback. I like the quick use of the Ghost Walk, though. Far too many players hang on to it until they're just about to die and then they pop it. Then they've got nothing left to really work with. Oh my god!
I gotta stand up and clap for that one. That was awesome. Backed into the corner with the Peeker, and then the explosion to finish it off. Finds his opponent at the heavy. LG's base down, is low on life, but look at that score, 6-2. And certainly in the lead. 2 minutes left to go. Base is going to pick up another frag, and you know that frag, that was probably Base like his one solid opportunity here to really try to mount a comeback. Let's see how Cooler now decides to play this one, being up by 3 in fairly good control of the map, and with about 1:40 left to go.
Cooler immediately able to pick up the heavy as well. It's only going to complicate things even further from Base. Oh, Cooler heard that. Oh, the defensive LG is so strong. Cooler probably expecting the chase. Indeed, Base right behind him. Out on his tail. Has to retreat though, and Cooler burning so much time. Base needs to start landing those rails. There we go, 1, 2, one more will do it. He needs that final shot. He can't let Cooler get away. Beautiful flick. Good play from Base. 1 more minute, 2 frags Weed. Can he do it?
I mean, you know, we're gonna find out how you know how much Cooler can run, but it's these rails that Base is hitting that I would be really concerned about. I think are the true danger here to Cooler. You know, he's got to do some misdirection of his own. He just doesn't have a Ghost Walk to do it. So he's hanging out in lower levels, caught with that LG. He takes the jump pad up to the top, which of course is, in my opinion, a great choice. There's a lot of different ways that you could go, and your opponent has got to choose. He's running that clock down 30 seconds. It's looking pretty good for Cooler. You know, I think he gets it to the 45-minute mark. He can kind of sit on his respawn. I think he'll be in a good spot. But I know Cooler. I don't know if I can see his face right now, but I'm sure he's got that little smirk, and he's like, how's it feel? Into the back corner, pulls out Peeker. The Ghost Walk as well. We might have a fight in the back hallways. The Cooler actually plays that one miraculously. Well done. Cooler takes it 6-4 at the 10-minute mark.
The moment that Cooler just started setting up shop in that little stairway, it was over. Base running by that first time and not realizing that Cooler was there. Eventually, he looped all the way back around from heavy and did end up walking in stairs. But it was too late. Cooler already had burned too much time off the clock and secured himself the 1-1 to tie everything back up. Now, I really do want to talk about Cooler, a nice little smirk right there.
There it was.
So familiar. Everyone who plays or knows anything about Quake, they have seen that one before. But I really do think that Peeker kill, I think that was probably the very first time, Wheat, in the Quake Pro League that I have seen someone delete a champion who was at full stack with a Mega with just a Peeker like that. That was tremendous.
I completely agree. And, you know, like, I mean, I doubt Cooler was expecting that when Peeker went up there, right? But what was interesting
Here we go.
is, and there it was, you know, like the back end of the corner is what was like Base. I don't know if he thought, oh, don't worry, I'm going to be able to take this out before it gets to me. But when he went back into the corner and basically invited him to just come in and blow him up, that was great to see. That was definitely my frag of the match. Congratulations, Peeker. Strog actually had nothing to do with that one. It was all you. And there's the, you know, the final score and a little smile on both sides, which is good. I like it. It's Quake. It's supposed to be fun, but it's also crazy intense competition as well. As we go into our third map, the Molten Falls, we've got Sorlag and Ison going head to head. What do you think about this one?
Oh, this is an interesting matchup, right? Base, he's got the speed. If he gets the lead, it's basically the same thing that you warned us about on the previous map. Ison has next to nothing in terms of mobility to work with, so if your opponent, who outstacks you by default, because Sorlag is, of course, one of the heavy champions, then it's going to be incredibly difficult to chase that down and to do enough damage to tie things back up or get yourself back into the lead. On the other hand, though, Cooler, the Ison is a pretty decent pick for this map. The turret can give you so much information, even if it doesn't do a lot of damage, because Molten Fall is one of the largest maps in the pool. So if that turret starts shooting somewhere on the other side, you will know immediately exactly where your opponent is. So I can definitely see this one going both ways. And as you are loading into this map, I want to say, guys, I know that these players have a lot of fans. I know that you're probably in Camp Cooler on the side of Base. Make some noise in the chat. Let us know who you want to see win this game. Is it Cooler? Is it Base? Make some noise.
Well, I'm, you know, I feel like this map has been getting more and more interesting as the weeks go on, right? I've been playing on it for a while, but I do feel like the play is evolving a little bit, not only from a champion perspective, I think that's pretty typical, but in terms of like, you know, I thought the way that Kilson was playing it today, for example, like with, you know, controlling the jump pad and then extending out, I don't know. It's really interesting. So I'm excited to see this one. Flea, as we get started in game number 3, take it away.
Absolutely, and it looks like we're starting things off on Cooler's point of view. For those of you just tuning in, this is the final map of the day. It is the decider of the series as well. Both players have won one map. Oh, Cooler jumping right back out just after missing that first shot. That definitely was the smart thing to do. Rail has, of course, a fair bit of a cooldown in between shots, so you really don't want to be caught recharging that gun before you can shoot again.
Yeah, that was a big nope by Cooler. Just,
yeah,
I'm out. But again, I think what we expected, like slowing things down at the beginning. Here we've got, wow, Base just coming around the corner, and Locomotive that does not want to stop. And I think it just kind of caught Cooler by surprise there, firing rockets on those stairs. Unfortunately, not doing a ton of damage. And oh, unfortunate spawn. Spit does come out, and a rail, and then the spit. and that's going to be a quick 2-0 lead for Cooler. I'll tell you what, Flea, that would be, in Cooler's shoes, I'd be pretty worried right now. 2 frags, not that big of a deal, can make it back for certain. But to the point that we were talking about, he knows what kind of players base is. He knows how he could play this one. He's got to find a window of opportunity to kind of sneak in and take back control. But he just absolutely cannot let any more frags get out of hand here. He's going to really need to bring one back here to avoid base kind of playing this map the way that he wants to.
Absolutely. Now base should be set on a beautiful trajectory right here. Picks up heavy first, giving himself plenty of time before securing the mega as well. He will have heard that teleporter. Oh, I love that move. Dropping down straight on Cooler. The LG is looking not as good as it could have been, especially those rockets. Cooler out of nowhere jumps back around, dropping 2 preemptive rockets on his way to that health bubble, and it takes down base. That was a bit of a misplay from the B100 player. He was looking so sharp with that horizontal rocket jump as well, just giving himself a speed boost, chasing Cooler through the telly.
Yeah, I thought that was going to, definitely play into his favor, but Cooler played that one smart. He also got that follow-up rail, which, meant base couldn't just sort of get aggressive on him, but man, base still hitting all the shots that he needs to hit. Right now, Cooler with a 50% rail, actually both down to 33 now. So hitting those shots and taking them, more importantly, because of course you miss the shots you don't take. So Cooler's gonna grab the mega, drop down the turret, and go on the hunt again. And down by 1, he did what he needed to do. He made sure there wasn't too large of a gap so that base couldn't just run away with it, literally.
And now we're seeing something that I think a lot of people would have expected. The game is slowing down. Base has got his lead, but he knows it's a fragile lead. 1 frag ahead of his opponent, 1 single bad engagement, and all his hard work could have very well been for nothing. Puts down a bit of a defensive rocket barrage right there, and now catching Cooler up on the bounce pad. This is good for base. Cooler pushing back in for the health bubble. Can he survive? Nope! The spit will clean it up. I think base has gotta start looking out for Cooler pushing for those health bubbles. Because this is the second time that Cooler just went for the closest health bubble after he got hit by the spit, and base wasn't ready for it either time. So base, he's gotta anticipate that.
Is interesting too, because that one little hallway, right, where 2 of base's frags have come from, it just seems like the Sorlag hallway, right? That's where you want to fight. In both cases, he dropped the spit down. It's gotten right up in his face, but that was a nice way to bring it back. Cooler playing patiently. He's like, this is going to be my hallway. I am the hall monitor now. You need to pass, and you cannot go. So Cooler now coming out of here, but I like how base has been playing that one. Did he get spit on again? Is that going to be another one? He's down to 1 point of health, and base knows it. There's a shotgun blast. He gets that frag back 2-4.
Definitely base looking pretty solid right now, but Cooler responding on the mega side, getting himself a pretty good starting stack to work with as well. Base, he's got to be careful. I feel like base is putting himself in a lot of precarious situations, just like when he double backed earlier without any regard of whether Cooler might still be there. He's putting himself at risk a fair bit, and that's not something I would expect from base. Now this is what I like to see, going once, twice, thrice, base landing 3 in a row, the hat trick for 1 more frag, looking so solid.
Very, very solid, and he's got the chase on Cooler coming out of that teleporter. Spit goes down back underneath, and still on the chase. The Tri-Bolt, the only thing in Cooler's arsenal, he actually gets quite a bit of damage off. Direct rocket coming out from base, but there's the LG to clean it up, and now 2-6. And Flea, I'm a little worried about this lead. We're halfway through this game. Base hitting his shots. His rails up to about 50% right now with about 16 rails shot. And, he's hitting when he needs to, putting Cooler pretty consistently in compromising positions. But what's the most compromising and worrisome is that 4 frag lead that we're seeing on base.
preemptively laying down that layer of toxic spit. Cooler will take some damage, but he's got enough health bubbles nearby to instantly stack back up. Base pushing onto the heavy. Say, this is what I'm talking about. Those risky positions. Can he even secure the item? He can, but now he's stuck in a really bad position. Cooler has got the weapon advantage and the stack advantage. Base cannot get away. He shouldn't have pushed for that wheat.
I don't know if that was being ahead right there, if it was knowing that the Mega was about to spawn and like got a little bit more cheeky in that position, but I agree with you. We did talk in the Kilson game about like taking risks when you're in the lead. Maybe that was too big a one, but it won't matter. Back to that free frag lead, 7-4 as a spit and a rail ends another one of Cooler's lives. Fight over the heavy. Cooler going after it. Base just going to fight from the outside, and now hurting a little bit, but missed that rail. This still decides to go over and fight near that Mega. Cooler unfortunately just not able to do much damage in any of those situations.
Loving the mid-air rocket on the turret, going up the bounce pad as well. Base just showing off a little right there. Now Heavy's about to spawn. Good position, good rockets, tremendous amount of damage, and another one. Base. He has been hitting a lot of these excellent shots when it matters the most. Overall railgun accuracy 53%. Another one. Combo kill indeed. Base 55% railgun accuracy. 500 more damage than his opponent. Cooler. And an exact the same amount of major items picked up. So this is really a lot about the damage. And Base has been landing the shots when it matters the most.
I see a little bit more aggression coming out from Cooler, which is kind of needed at this point in the game if you want to try to bring it back. But this is playing right into how Base wants to play these final 2 minutes. He's hitting very nice rails. He's hitting great rockets. He's definitely dancing. Cooler finally catches up with him. Shotgun to the back to make it 5-9. But 4 frags here as Base finds him once again with the LG. Cooler will grab another frag. And there's time now. You talked about some of the risks earlier. And, I don't know. Cooler's actually playing this one great now in the final moments.
Absolutely, and he still has time to work with as well. 90 seconds on the clock. Mega's about to spawn. Base should not be making an appearance, and indeed he won't. Just gonna run away for the time being. Now Cooler's got a tremendous stack. The Lizard has got the speed advantage. But Cooler has got the stack. Takes a sneaky little rail from the side. Base. Once.
Oh.
Okay. That works. Cooler's hurting after that one, though. Luckily for him, there are going to be some resources.
Yeah. Base has got to be happy he hit that rocket as Cooler was coming through that telly. 1 minute left to go. Cooler now in the eyes. It needs 2 frags to bring it back. He is against his opponent. Over by the Mega, and so close, is ticking down now. He does manage the frag base. It's just 1 frag game, but he is low, 78 points of health. What is he going to end up doing? Immediately goes, heals back up, gets hit by a rail, down to 10 points of damage, and this is really scary here for Cooler.
Base, especially now after he picked up the heavy, the stack difference is just tremendous. Cooler, you don't have time. He doesn't have the time to go for the small bubbles first and then try to find Base still burning a few precious seconds of the clock right there. Now he's starting to chase his opponent down, but the time just isn't there, and that will be Base. His second map win by a single frag. Congratulations, well played to the B100 player, but it will be Cooler still not getting that first match win of Season 2.
You're right. He didn't, and that was that was a tough one to watch on both sides. I mean, great play by both players. Base with this 52% railgun out of 36 shots, quite impressive. He was hitting all those shots, and that was making a huge difference in that game. I do think that there is that moment in that game where maybe Base got a little bit too comfortable, like he wanted to change it up a little bit. And, I think that's why the end of that game was much closer than it probably should have been if Base decided to go full, like, defensive try hard in that map, which, he didn't. And I can appreciate that too. We talked about risks earlier today. I'm all for it. I love it. I think spectators love it when we see these players take risk, maybe to extend the lead or maybe to give up a little bit of lead. That's the bad part of the risk. But it was a great set of games today, and I like that last one. It was nice. Congratulations to Base.
Absolutely, fully agree with you. But to bring someone back to help us break down this previous series, let's get Ketchup back alongside of us. Ketchup, what did you think of that series?
I think my favorite thing about the series was the player cams, to be honest, and constantly seeing the both of them whenever these kind of like really pivotal moments happened, the kind of cheeky little smiles. You know what I mean? Even up until that final moment with Cooler, when he ran past that Mega and he kind of like, chuckled to himself a little bit in the final moments. It's just great seeing two players that practice together as extensively as they do. Playing in tournament, there's clearly good vibes all round with the two of them. Although it is definitely a competitive environment for sure, but I think this was the exact kind of matchup that the people wanted to see. It was close. It was down to the wire up until the last 30 seconds, and they're two players that are absolutely of the top of their regions, respectively.
Yeah, I mean, Base is a player that people have been talking about for a while. Keep your eye out for. He is, claimed many a victory. Cooler, I see some folks say, how, Cooler, you're champ. How not like this? But really, it speaks more to how much the players are improving here in QPL. I can't praise some of these players enough. You can see that they're putting time into it, not only from a champion perspective, but from a map perspective and even a match up perspective, because I know these two have, played before many, many, many times. But well played. Glad to see the smiles all around. And I thought it was another great week in Quake.
I strongly think that Base is one of the most improved players in Quake Champions. You look at Base and his performances. In like the early stages of Quake Champions, and his kind of straight up inability really to perform at LAN. And he's come such a long way since then, both offline and online. He's a complete monster now, and definitely better than he's ever been.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we can all expect some great things from this player in the future. So far, beating Cypher, now taking Cooler down as well. Really strong start to Season 2, and I'm excited to see where he takes this.
So, believe it or not, gentlemen, that's going to be the day's series wrapped up and done with. Base ended up with absolutely on a high note there to finish out the night. A lot of people were cheering for him, as we've said many times. Absolute fan favorite is Base, but it doesn't stop him from being a complete beast all the same. But let's have a quick recap of today's action. I mean, we've had a fair amount of really good series. My personal highlight was actually seeing Deep Embrace for the first time. That was a really, really, really fun map to watch with, someone like Wenger having that, a bit of the knowledge and tournament-ready confidence on such an early map. I mean, there's a reason a lot of players don't pick the new maps, but Wenger went straight off and gave us the first map of the day, something brand new. It says a lot for his style of the game, right? And the confidence that comes with it.
Yeah, I like the map too. It looks real nice. There's an aesthetic that I think it fits perfectly into everything. I mean, definitely some 3-0s today, but looking up there, actually Killson CNZ also 2-1. So, a lot of split maps, and I would suspect we're going to be seeing more and more and more of that as the weeks progress as well. And that's, great news for everyone because it means exciting matches. As I mentioned before, players are definitely putting in their time. And, I'm going to have some hope, gentlemen, that, people are going to feel practiced enough and comfortable enough to start picking those new maps. We're going to start seeing them a little bit. People are going to start realizing, okay, wait, actually, this could be my map. So very curious to see how that will shake out amongst all the players over the next few weeks.
I mean, it's kind of crazy to say that we're already finished week 4. I feel like we've only just started this. Yet here we are, a month down, and let's not forget the fact that the stages go on longer than they did in Season 1. So there is plenty more where that came from, Flea.
Oh, absolutely, and I greatly enjoyed my time today. So many highlights. Indeed, Deep Embrace being played for the first time. I was looking at chat in between some of the games, and I saw Maxter say that if he has the opportunity, he's going to pick Deep Embrace next week. If his opponent doesn't ban him, he's going to prioritize the new map. So hopefully we're going to get to see some more of that new action next week.
Well, unfortunately, folks, that is all we have time for today. However, that doesn't mean that we didn't have a fantastic day of really good games and players all round. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, whether you've been with us for 10 minutes or whether you've stuck through the whole thing. Thank you very much for holding out the marathon with the rest of us. I'd like to thank Flea and the wonderful DJ Wheat for joining me, as always, and the hardworking production team behind the scenes making these shows possible. We love you very much. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Don't go anywhere, because this time next week, Quake Pro League will continue. Good night.